Try as I might, I can't remember a thing that I learned at school. It never made much sense to me. Studying far-off lands and theories from behind a desk, I couldn't wait to get out of the classroom and start learning my own lessons. Today I'd like to share with you a few ideas that as an adult I'm utterly sure of, and they're all things that I wish I'd learned at school. The moment we're born is the only time when we're all alive, when we're all the same. Give or take a few physical differences and a geographical location. We're the same. We're untouched. We're not born with a god or a political affiliation. We don't prefer red over blue or green. We don't yet know what we're good at or not, and we don't judge. We're simply an intelligent, yet slightly bony ball of putty waiting to be molded. And in the years to come, we'll be molded by the things that we're exposed to. Attitudes, beliefs, conversations, reactions, habits, the media, school, our friends, teachers, and our parents. We're brought up to act in a certain way and to believe in certain things. And as a consequence, we tend to distrust others who don't appear to follow our rules because they're different. Not understanding something is a challenge to the comfort of knowing what you stand for. I know what you're thinking. It's Saturday morning and this is already getting a little bit heavy. So let me take you back a few years to where my brother Andy turned to me and said, quite matter-of-factly, "Dave, you're a waste of sperm." He was 4. Considering I was 8 at the time, and even by then I didn't know what sperm was, it was clear that Andy was developing at a faster rate than I was, which didn't seem fair considering all the help I'd given him. But right there, I think, a seed was planted. Is there anything worse than wasting our time here? I'm lucky enough to own 2 things that are really central to my adult identity. The first is Expedition 1000. 25 different journeys of 1,000 miles or more, each one using a different form of non-motorised transport. I've completed 12 of these journeys to date, travelling over 20,000 miles under my own steam. So much has happened already, and I'm not even halfway. From stand-up paddleboarding the Mississippi to sailing the Pacific and taking a kick scooter around Japan, these journeys are my soul food. And each one means a little bit more because it's part of something greater. The second important part of my work is Say Yes More. What started as just a personal motto has now become a social enterprise that helps nudge people towards finding out what they're really capable of. Every October, we hold a micro-festival for positive change. It's called Yestival. We have almost finished a double-decker bus conversion to be our HQ. It's a multifunctional hub designed to get people thinking and acting more creatively. It's called the Yes Bus, predictable. And all of this is underpinned by a community of over 3,500 people and growing fast worldwide now, which we call the Yes Tribe. I know, it sounds a little bit like a cult, doesn't it? It's not. My story started off as a regular one, in that I went through the education system and absolutely hated the constant pressure I felt under to perform in exams. This enforced period of generic testing from primary to higher education just happens to coincide with that very period of our lives when we don't yet know what we're being tested for. This is how I spent the first few years of my 20s. I eventually ended up going to university despite a clear lack of endgame and the obvious threat of impending lifelong debt. By the early millennium, a degree on its own didn't really mean anything. It was practically worthless. It wasn't going to guarantee me a job. But by then, I still couldn't for the life of me work out what else I could be doing. Oh, man. It was a naughty little trap. And it's one that millions now fall into. Graduates these days are pressured to find pretty much whatever job they can in order to start paying off their debt. And that almost defeats the object of narrowing your studies in the first place. When I was 25, everything changed. I went on a snowboarding holiday and that led to a skateboard. And 2 weeks later, I quit my job and skateboarded across Australia, breaking a world record, earning a book deal, and a healthy dose of post-expedition depression. Yeah, that was sad. But all of this made me believe that I could do so much more with my life than just forget it. It was like that ball of putty that I'd once been had unpummeled itself. It was undented, ready to learn all over again. And we have moments like this, maybe in 4 or 5 different phases in our lives, when we realize we need to do something different from before. We have to act on these opportunities. If we don't develop anymore. And we end up just being grumpy old people who forgot what it was like to be young and free. We end up being defined by what we can't do, by what we didn't do. Our strongest tool for self-development is our imagination. It sets us apart from all other creatures. Our minds help us to grow and to hide away, to trailblaze and to simplify those things most complicated to us. Our minds can make a tree from a seed and visualize what it's going to be like when it's fully grown. And that helps us, it gives us an incentive to nurture it and also the patience to value its progress. When I begin a journey, I can visualize myself crossing the finish line. And when I start writing a book, I can see people reading it, usually on the tube. I think this is what work should look like. When we do work we don't enjoy, it impacts on our self-worth. When we finish every day without satisfaction, eventually we start to become numb. And when you're miserable, you pass that on to everyone around you. Let's say that, on average, each of us works for 5 days a week for about 40 years. And then let's be really, really generous. I hope there aren't any Americans in the room. And give ourselves 25 days holiday a year. That's 9,425 days. 1,346 weeks. 314 months. Or 26.1 years that we're at work. That's an awful lot of time to spend doing something that you don't enjoy. You've got to choose your office. In our pockets, we have access to more knowledge than all of the previous generations of humankind combined. We can teach ourselves any skill on YouTube. We can have the answer to pretty much any question on Google. Creating a storefront is just a click away, and with our phones and our laptops and the internet, we can work from pretty much anywhere now. We're not restricted, and a really good workplace for you improves your enjoyment of your work, so choose your office. There are some fun ones out there. It's also important to remember that nobody else cares as much as you about your experiences. We've all been there, haven't we? Either as offenders or victims of the dreaded holiday photo album. Imagine one of your friends has just come back from somewhere sunny. They want to meet up for coffee. And they probably want to boast. But you don't care. You don't care about the beach that they were bathing on. You don't care about the hunky lifeguard. You couldn't give a hoot whether the bar was conveniently placed next to the hotel. You might want to be there, but you don't care. Stories are so powerful. But if you want other people to care about yours, don't just tell them what you did, tell them how and why. And if all of that fails, then, maybe just chuck a fluffy animal in there if you want to impress people on social media. I crossed Europe on this recumbent tricycle and got 76 likes on Facebook, but shared a picture of a monkey and an iPad, up to 214. What? I swam for 2 months, 1,000 miles, 37 likes. But dress up in a suit like James Bond and go dog sledding, well over 300. Come on. I broke a world record distance on a stand-up paddleboard. 43. But share a picture of a water skiing squirrel and you break the internet. It doesn't seem fair, but luckily likes on social media don't equal success. And don't start anything unless you really want to. And if you do, just be willing to compromise until you finish it. Otherwise, when you get knocked off the road, you're going to have much less reason to carry on. In 2012, I rode this bike car from Memphis to Miami. But 4 hours into that journey, I was hit by a speeding car and ended up 30 meters off the road. Luckily, no one was hurt. It was a miracle. But it was a little bit too close a call for me. I considered stopping because for me, these journeys are about living and not dying. But I did realize that if I stopped, I'd never experience the things that I could only experience by crossing the American South on a bicycle that desperately wants to be a car. Things like, I always wanted to know what it would be like to go through Alabama, and I realized what it would be like when I saw that the state line sign was absolutely riddled with bullet holes. And how restrictive it is to travel on a craft that is 5'7" wide and weighs a quarter ton, especially when there's an annoying yellow barrier in front of an otherwise perfectly decent cycle path. Or how it feels to camp between two swamps on the ground, and when you wake up in the middle of the night and realize, I've blocked the alligator crossing. They should probably have a sign for that. Or how lovely it feels to be so satisfied with what happened on the journey that the destination really doesn't matter. That a car park is a perfectly legitimate place to end a big trip, and that a photo with a Miami stereotype is a perfect way to celebrate as well. When something happens that you can't fix, there's no point wasting any energy or time moaning or being frustrated. Instead, look for the new opportunity. In December 2015, I was walking in the Middle East en route to what I hoped at the time would be my 12th journey over 1,000 miles. But after 150 miles walking through the West Bank and across the Jordan Valley, I broke my leg. Now, there's one thing about a broken leg, you can't unbreak it. So all I could do was make the most of the empty 2 months in my calendar, those months when I should have been walking. A couple of weeks later, I ended up in Bali. It was a little bit sweaty for my moon boot, but I helped build a brand new co-working and co-living place. And I also met the girl that I'll be spending the rest of my life with. So I'm pretty happy that I broke my leg. If a film was being made about your life, would you watch it? Would you? If not, you've got to pick the pace up. Come on. Imagine that you're split between 2 or 3 decisions, and you know that each one will take you down a different life path. Always, always, always go for the one which is going to give you the better story. I love all of my different work skills, but the pressure of an income can turn a passion into a chore. So to avoid this, every year I have a policy to learn a brand new skill that at some point will be able to pay. It takes the pressure off. One year I decided that I'd try and make a living from my camera. So I started off with a very basic knowledge of filming and editing. I bought a drone and taught myself how to fly it. And then I did what I always do with this concept, which was to slightly prematurely tell people that it was now my job. It didn't take long, and I bagged the most amazing gig as official filmmaker for a luxury hotel company. It was ridiculous. They offered to send me around the world for 8 months making video blogs about 80 of their properties. It really was ridiculous. I went to Spain, Finland, Sweden, Turkey, Malaysia in the first 3 weeks alone, and then I got a call saying the deal was off. They'd been bought out, or at least that's what they told me. I decided not to go home, though, and went to Kuala Lumpur Airport to plot my next move. I sat on a massage chair, and an alarm started to go off because I wasn't using it. So I had to put money in the slot, and while I got a massage, I cooked up a brand new project called Out of Office. The idea was kind of simple, to exchange my filmmaking skills for life's basic necessities, which for me are food, shelter, and travel. I decided what I wanted to do, and I thought surfing sounds cool. So I looked on Google and wrote to all of the nearest surf schools I could find. Later that day, someone had written back and said yes. I ended up in southern Bali, once again at the Rapture Surf Camp, and spent 10 days with them making films. And then I went north to this wonderful eco-lodge called Bamboo Indah, and lived basically right next to a rope swing for a week, making a film for those guys. I went to Australia and filmed the Indian Pacific, this wonderful transcontinental journey. I went into the bush and filmed a 4-wheel drive school, and then hopped west again to Rottnest Island to hunt down some selfies with quokkas, the happiest animal in the world. It was an awesome little project. And when you're carrying everything on your back, there's no room for waste. I still had the suit from the luxury hotel gig, but rather than throw it away, I just put it to good use. When you have fun, it keeps you young, and vice versa. And if I ever find I'm taking myself a little bit too seriously, then I'll either play a joke on someone, or I'll do what I think is a universal cure for self-importance. which is to go to an epic place, assume a dramatic master and commander-like pose, and don't tell the photographer that you've substituted your fingers for small bananas. Oh, I love that. Last year, I was running a series of growth mindset workshops at a school in South London, and I asked the kids whether any of them felt pressured by their parents to be pursuing a particular career. Over half of them put their hands up. They were 5. What? Isn't that incredible? Isn't that really sad? Even if we don't intend to, we so strongly influence those people around us. And surrounding ourselves with positive, like-minded people ensures that our own skills and abilities will be nurtured to the fullest. And nature is so important. So many of us live in urban environments, and that relevant disconnect now with nature ensures that our mental health is on a slow decline unless we get out there. It amazes me how many people I meet who've never been camping before. It's really simple. You just walk into the countryside and lie down for a night. It's our natural, beautiful medicine. The Yes Tribe community that I mentioned earlier grew out of people not being afraid to say yes to new opportunities, but it's bound by a philosophy of spending time in nature with like-minded, supportive people. And it's so important to say yes before you're ready, because you're never ready. When we do something new, we grow, but unless we start, we'll never know. I take it nice and easy those first few days of every trip until I'm happy with the way I'm self-propelling, and then I pick up the pace. I never train, and I guess if you do something all day, every day, just for 4 days, you become really, really good at it, and then you can just go. I jumped into the Missouri River having never swum 100 meters in one go in my life before, and I swam for 58 days. The first time I sat in this pedal kayak was off that dock in Oslo before a 49-day crossing of Scandinavia. You don't need to be a supreme athlete to do this stuff. My friend Seb and I sat on a tandem bike for the first time when we started a 1,400-mile, 14-day journey between Vancouver and Vegas. It's easier than you might imagine. Whether or not you believe in reincarnation, there is no practical or scientific proof that there's anything beyond this life, so it's kind of a risk putting things off until then. We are wonderfully insignificant in the scheme of things, so work out why you're here and what you have to offer, and then stop worrying so much. Nothing is more important than how we feel at any given moment, and acting on your instinct will always take you to wherever you need to be. And I wish they taught me that at school. Thank you.